What's my top game of all time across all consoles? In this episode, we're going to find out. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Screech. This is Retro Card Collector, and on today's episode, we're going to take a look at another 10 games in my Super Nintendo collection. And like I said in the intro there, this one actually is going to have my top game of all time across all consoles, my favorite game I have ever played. So getting into it quick, number one on this list, again, this isn't a top 10 list, this is just games in my collection, so I can share them with you, share my experiences, share my memories, share my nostalgia with you. And if you have any nostalgia for any of these games, share it back. I want to hear about it in the comments. If this is a game you love, this is a game you hate, anything like that, let me know, because it's really fun for me to hear that from you. So number 11 in my NES collection is gonna be Super Mario World. This is such a fun game. Oh my goodness. I remember getting this and the Super Nintendo for my birthday. Like the first year it was released in North America, here in Canada. And I spent so many hours playing this. I love this game to death. This game is so much fun. They brought Yoshi into it. They changed the world up. They made it look so cool. The graphics, everything that came with this one, I loved. I remember beating it. I remember exploring it. Everything. I explored all the secrets, all the little ins and outs of it. I loved playing this. I had so much fun playing Super Mario World as a kid. And I remember absolutely loving it. From Chocolate Island to all that other stuff. This is such a cool game. I love that they put all those secrets in it. Stuff that really let us explore, let us figure stuff out. You hear the rumors on the playground. Oh, you have to do this to get to there. Oh, have you got that secret? Oh, have you got this secret? They put so much thought and effort into this one when they came out with it. It blew us all away. I love the cape. I love everything about this game. Super Mario World is such a fun game. And it's going to be number 11 in my Super Nintendo collection. Now, I know people say SNES, they say Super Nintendo. I say SNES. That's what I've always said, so that's what you're going to hear. So if that irks you or something, I'm sorry, that's just how I am. That's what I say. I also say Mario because I'm Canadian, and that's how we said it back then. That was what we said as a kid. I've always said it that way. As far as I know, everyone I know has said it that way. So if that's something that bugs you too, I'm sorry. Blame it on the Canadian here. I'm going to say Mario, which is why I said it that way. So if you didn't like it, sorry about your luck there.
It's extremely rude.
Number 12 on my SNES list is going to be Super Castlevania 4. Now, I hadn't played a lot of this. I didn't have this one as a kid. I didn't have any of the Castlevanias as a kid. I'm guessing because it was like Dracula and stuff like that. And that wasn't really the kind of stuff that I was into as a kid. I was into like that high fantasy stuff that I could really adventure around in. And I kind of sad that I missed out on playing this one as a kid because I put it in and I really enjoyed this guy. I got it because I wanted to add to my Castlevania collection because I have all the ones for the Nintendo and I really wanted to have the Super Nintendo ones too. So I grabbed this one up. This is a fun game. I really enjoyed this one. I find this one a little easier than the other ones. The music is awesome. The art style is incredible. I love the way that this one looks. I love the backgrounds in Super Castlevania 4. I also really enjoy that you can aim the whip wherever you want. I find that to be really helpful. It does still have that knockback a little bit, but this one, I feel like I can manage this one a little bit better than some of the other ones. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with this one. I don't know where this ranks on people's Castlevania list because, like I said, I was never huge into Castlevania. I'm just starting to get into Castlevania and really enjoying it. And Super Castlevania 4 is number 12 in my SNES collection. Number 13 on my list is one I had as a kid. Never really played it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I was doing. I played the adventure stuff at the start of it. And then after that, not a clue. Couldn't figure it out. I guess I kind of got bored of it as a kid and then moved on to something like Super Mario World because that one I could just goof around and play and I didn't have to figure out as much. It's going to be ActRaiser. Now, ActRaiser I did finally play and it is an awesome game. I now understand why everyone thinks it's so amazing, and it gets such accolades that it does. ActRaiser is such a cool game. Kind of interested in the second one too. That one I think might be on a wish list for me, kind of a game I'm gunning for. But this one, this is really fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the battle part of it where you're fighting, you're moving around attacking as like the knight. And I also ended up really enjoying the SimCity style part of it where you're going around and kind of building that world. This is such a cool game. Again, my memories as a kid of it, I remember sitting in my living room and playing this one and never knowing what I was doing. And like I said, as a kid, I kind of got bored of it. I'm glad as an adult I tried it because I was totally missing out. Until now, I was totally missing out on an awesome game. And again, I still have that feeling from when I was a kid that I had to kind of push aside to get into this game because I was like, oh, what do I do? What do I do now? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. And then it turns out I really enjoyed it, which is awesome. Sometimes when you have those experiences as a kid, they stick with you. And it's hard to get past those. But if you could push past that, again, there's games like this you have a lot of fun with. I feel like there's games out there that people say are bad games. Obviously not ActRaiser, but I feel like there's games out there that people think are garbage games because they played them as a kid. I feel like if you tried some of those as an adult, maybe you could push through it and maybe find some real enjoyment out of it. Because that's what I had with this one, is as a kid, I was like, get rid of this one. Trade that in for something fun. As an adult, I love this game. This is so cool. Number 13 in my SNES collection is going to be ActRaiser. Number 14 is such an amazing game. Again, this is not a best of list, nothing like that. So if you think I'm putting this at number 14, no, this is just number 14 in my collection. Arbitrary numbers. It's gonna be Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. This is such an amazing experience. The adventure, everything about it, the story. This is such an incredibly well done game. If you've ever played Link to the Past, I swear you're missing out. I don't know who hasn't played Link to the Past because it was like a staple game back in the day. This one, everyone talked about. I remember it being the talk of the town on the playground, and I never beat it as a kid. I didn't beat it until I was an adult, and now that I have, it's so amazing. I'm actually going through all Legend of Zelda games that I can. I've been through the Nintendo ones. This one, I did Link's Awakening, which I thought was an amazing game. And now I kind of started into Ocarina of Time. I never had an N64 as a kid. I'm not connected to that as much, so I'm having a hard time getting into that one. But I'm working on it. I promise I'm going to make it through at least all the cartridge-style Zeldas before I'm done here real soon. That being said, this is such an amazing game. Look at the gameplay on it. It's so well done. Everything about Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past is amazing. I love this game so much. Still, not my top game of all time. Right up there at the tippy top because this game is so much fun. Number 14 in my SNES collection is going to be Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Number 15 in my SNES collection is going to be Super Street Fighter 2. Now, I distinctly remember being good at fighting games. I had all the Mortal Kombats as a kid. I had the Street Fighter games. I remember playing the Street Fighter games in the arcade and actually being fairly good at them. Apparently, whatever that was has worn off because I suck at these fighting games all of a sudden. I put this in and I could barely get past Ken. And then when I got to Chun-Li, she just dominated me. I'm gonna have to go back and do a lot of practicing on this before I ever play any fighting game in public because it was embarrassing. Oh, I sucked so bad at it. I love it, but I sucked so bad at it. I was like, hey, I know the moves for Ryu. I'll pick Ryu. I did great. The first fight, I did awesome. And the second fight, Ken just kicked my butt. I was like, oh, whatever, things happen. I'll get him in the third round. No, it took me like 6 tries. I was changing characters thinking maybe I don't remember how Ryu fights. And then I had to go back to Ryu just to beat Ken. Proceeded to get like super cheap shotted by Chun-Li and died. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I got my butt kicked in Super Street Fighter 2, and I had fun getting my butt kicked. Honestly, it was a great time just for the nostalgia, because it's been so long since I've actually played this one. I remember playing games like this in the arcade. I can close my eyes and I can visually see myself standing in Shooter's Arcade, junior high school, a fistful of quarters, waiting to get to play Mortal Kombat 2 when it came out. And I can remember playing Street Fighter, remember all that stuff. I remember the smell of the place. I remember the people around me. I have such a strong connection with that moment, waiting in line to play Mortal Kombat 2 when it first came out. And it was like right in the set, there was like a light coming down from the ceiling, so being like, this is where you need to be. And that's where I was. And it was so much fun. I just wish I was still good at fighting games, because the next one on my list is another fighting game that I suck at. Because number 16 on my list is gonna be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. I suck even more at this one than I did at Street Fighter when I played it. This is such a cool game because it's turtles, and it was such a cool idea that I wish I was good at it. I wish I could get further into it right now and see a little bit more of it. I never played this one as a kid. I didn't get to play this guy. Honestly, I didn't even know this was a thing until I was in my 30s. But it's a super cool idea and an interesting game. Again, I suck at it. I can't get the moves to work. I don't know what I'm doing. When I do make it a little ways into it, I just get my butt kicked anyways. But it's a super cool game. I wish I had more experience with this one as a kid, because like I said, I had all the Mortal Kombats. I was huge into Mortal Kombat and some of the Street Fighters. I loved all those games. But this one's not one I had or even knew about. So if you were playing this one as a kid, let me know what your memories are of it, because it seems like a really cool game. And I wish I had some memories of it as a kid. Number 16 in my SNES collection, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. Number 17 in my SNES collection is what I would call a bit of a stinker, and it's gonna be Super Star Wars. Now, Super Star Wars is not a high-rated game. This is the player's choice one, and you know what? I wouldn't have picked it if I was playing it, because I don't really enjoy it. The monsters are kind of weird. Yeah, the sprites are kind of interesting. The monsters just come at you left, right, and center. The amount of enemies coming at me in this one are ridiculous. And then when I do finally get to the end, guys, I just get my butt kicked. Honestly, I've never been past level 1 on this, so I don't know if it's any good. I know level 1 isn't very fun, and I played it a million times and never beat that Sarlacc. Now, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. If you know what I'm doing wrong, let me know. But I don't really think Super Star Wars is a really high-rated game. But hey, it's going to be number 17 in my SNES collection. Now, number 18 in my SNES collection is going to be Krusty's Super Fun House. Now, this one is super fun. I really enjoy the Krusty Fun House games. I like the one on the Nintendo, and I like this SNES one. This one I enjoy because it's just kind of problem solving. This was the kind of stuff that I really enjoyed playing as a kid. I could figure it out. I could take my time. If it didn't work, I'd just try it again. I really enjoyed those kind of problem solving games. And this one is super fun. Do I think this would fly nowadays? Probably not, but back when it came out, it was super fun, and I did play this as a kid. So by the time I was an adult, this was one that was absolutely on my hit list. I had to track this down, because I remember having such a good time playing Krusty's Super Fun House as a kid, learning those levels, figuring them out, figuring out how to get all those mice over to Bart. I just thought this was a great game, and it absolutely holds up. If you haven't played Krusty's Super Fun House, this one's for sure worth trying out. If you're interested in puzzle games, stuff like that, 1000%. This is a great game in my opinion. Number 18 in my SNES collection is gonna be Krusty's Super Fun House. Now, these last couple are gonna be a couple really top-end games for me, games that I love. The last one, again, is gonna be that big one that I completely love, my favorite game of all time. This one is definitely gonna be right up there. And if you can tell by looking at the background, you could probably figure out which game it might be. Number 19 on my SNES collection is gonna be Sunset Riders. Now, Sunset Riders is such an amazing game. I love this one so much as a kid that when it came time for me to get an arcade cabinet as an adult, when I came to that point in my life, when I had the disposable income to do that, I went out and I found Sunset Riders. I tracked that down, and I just loved Sunset Riders so much. The Wild West theme, the gameplay, the music, the art style, everything about it. This is the reason that I'm into Western style games. If my buddy Carl's watching, this Sunset Riders, if you've never played it, which I know you probably haven't, Sunset Riders is 1000% the reason that I love the Red Dead series and why I enjoy playing that so much. Absolutely, this one here, Sunset Riders, is the reason for that. It's just such a cool game. I remember playing it as a kid and just loving every single second of it. Jumping on the cows' backs as they're stampeding, running, all that stuff. And honestly, I'm so glad I played the Super Nintendo version because I've taken a look and I've actually played the Genesis version. And it does stack up a little bit, but nowhere near as much as this one. I loved this so much. I loved the characters. I loved everything about it. Again, to the point that I had to go and get the stand-up arcade for Sunset Riders. Number 19 on my SNES collection is going to be Sunset Riders. All right, this one, number 20, is going to be the best game I've ever played. Hands down, this is my personal favorite. If you ask me what's my favorite game of all time, this is gonna be it. And it's gonna be Final Fantasy III. This is Final Fantasy VI in Japan. Final Fantasy III, this defined me as a person, as a kid. I loved this game. This is the very first game that I ever felt emotional connections to the characters, everything about it. I loved Final Fantasy III. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Final Fantasy VII. I agree, it's a perfect game, but this one for me, because nostalgia, because again, it was the first one that I had emotional connections with the characters, this one is my top game of all time. Hands down, this is the one I would pick. If I could only play one game for the rest of my life, I would play Final Fantasy III on repeat because I love it so much. I love JRPGs because of this one. I remember renting this as a kid. I never owned it as a kid, but I would rent it continually. I would literally take it back to the video store and be like, can we rent this again immediately? And go back and keep playing it, right? And I remember there's one area where you're on a raft and you can keep selecting to go in a circle. I had a super controller, so I set the super controller up in my living room. This playing made it so I would keep on going in that one circle and I would keep on fighting the guys to level my guys up. Now, I remember turning that on, getting it set up, getting on the school bus and going to school and coming home, and I must have done it like twice and stopped doing it. My guys weren't leveled up at all. I was like, oh, come on. I just wanted to level them up. Now, the reason Final Fantasy III is going to be my top game of all time is A, the music. This song right here, this one here, that intro, everything about it. I love the characters. I love that there's hidden characters. There's secret characters you can find that I had to track down. Obviously, even as a kid, I would hear about it and I would have to find them. I'd be like, oh, there it is there. I have to get to him. And again, I had emotional connections to these characters. When bad things happen to them, when Kefka poisons the river and you see that scene, I had emotional connection to that character. And to me, that made Kefka the worst villain of all time. I loved those characters. I loved every one of them. There was romance, there was everything in this game. Any game that can have an opera scene in it, and it is an amazing scene that as a kid, I enjoyed and wanted to play through, that to me puts this in a class above all others. I love Final Fantasy III, and if I could only play one game for the rest of my life, it would be this. If I can play Final Fantasy III when I'm 90 years old in a nursing home, I would love to have that experience in my life. I love it that much. Number 20 in my SNES collection is, in my opinion, the perfect Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 6 in Japan. So yeah, that is gonna be 10 more games in my Super Nintendo collection, my SNES collection, as I say it. Now, I don't have a huge Super Nintendo collection yet. I'm at like 46 games. So these episodes are gonna be few and far between for now, but once we get a little deeper into this Nintendo collection, then we're gonna really dig into this. And if you've watched the other videos, N64 is coming, Game Boy Color, I'm going for all of those as well. And I might just keep it between you and me. No one else is watching right now. I might dip my toes into Genesis. I don't know yet. It might happen soon. So with that, I hope you enjoyed. Tell me your feelings. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me you hate the way I say Mario. Tell me you hate the way I say SNES. Tell me if you think Final Fantasy 3 is the perfect game, or if you prefer a different one. Is there a game that you prefer? What is your perfect game on the Super Nintendo?